And here in the studio with me to discuss this new law is Swetlana Shайтанова. She's with the Quarteera, an association of Germany's Russian-speaking LGBTQ community and its allies. Good to have you in the studio with us. So you are from Russia. You've lived in Germany for some 8 years. You fight for LGBTQ visibility. How does it feel to you to see that the government at home, in your home country, is trying to make this your community invisible again?
Well, of course, for the Russian LGBT community, it's another turn of drastic repression. But I think it's not the worst that my government can do to LGBTQ people in Russia. I mean, they're already doing much worse things for LGBTQ people, and not only in Ukraine. So those two situations are not to compare. But yeah, people are very worried, and they're looking to leave the country. Even after the first anti-propaganda law in 2013, there were many refugees from Russia, and then we all know about Chechnya, which happened about the same time. And this is the first time we started working with refugees from Russia, but nothing prepared us for the amount of work, the number of people who seek help, who want to leave Russia, which we are facing right now.
Yeah. This creates a hostile posture towards the LGBTQ community, doesn't it? What are the real-life consequences of this law for the LGBTQ community in Russia?
Yeah, so last time, after it was first introduced in 2013, there has been witnessed a huge increase in hate crime. There has been a study by a Russian sociologist about hate crime in Russia, which is difficult to do because there is no such thing as there is no definition of hate crime against queer people in Russia. But we've definitely witnessed how the population has become more and more hostile, as you said, towards the community, because it's just, as we say it in Russian, из каждого утюга, like from every corner you hear propaganda about gay people being something satanic, something out of the world, something the Western enemy has imposed on the Russian society, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, for people who live in Russia and basically hear it every day and don't have like critical thinking skills, or maybe have
to
never
contextualize what they're being told, right?
Exactly.
So, are there any safe spaces left in Russia for LGBTQ people?
Some of them, yes. Most of the organizations had to leave the country, not only due to the anti-propaganda law, but also before, like starting from the 24th February, there has been many new laws, restrictions for civil society organizations for any kind of a protest or resistance against government. So many of them, like we've worked with many organizations even in the previous 2 years, they were threatened with being recognized as international agents. So it was already complicated 2 years ago and last year. And this year, I mean, not last year, 2021. In 2022, it has become impossible. Some of the organizations were liquidated legally, like Sfera, so many of them left the country and opened an NGO, some entity, legal entity outside of Russia to be able to continue to do some of the operations. They offer a lot of activities online, but it's not the same as a physical connection with the community. But there are still some who continue to survive, who continue to provide services, even under the threat of being...
And now that it's become a lot more important, right? This law is not only extremely discriminatory, it's also very vague. What will the consequences be for Russia's cultural landscape and for education of future generations, too?
Yeah, it's very vague because it differentiates between propaganda and demonstration, and propaganda is prohibited among all ages, and demonstration is prohibited among minors. So basically that demonstration is anything, like any public demonstration of affection, for example, and if it happens outside in the public and there are children, well, basically it's prohibited and it's illegal. There are very high fines, and they are also considering to introduce even more restrictive measures. For example, for the second time of being accused of propaganda, you might get a sentence in prison. There has been some discussions about that too. A lot of content has been censored already before that, but now it's just becoming even more ridiculous. I mean, they cannot delete all the content, but they're trying to. But what's the worst thing is the self-censorship, because publishing houses and channels and media, they are so afraid to be associated with LGBTQ people because it's illegal, so they delete the content themselves. And many of the articles, so that's the thing for queer people now, if in case they need to gather information to apply for an asylum or humanitarian visa, they have to go online and find and save the articles if they are a public person, because in a while there will be nothing to be found in the Russian internet.
We don't have much time, but I do want to ask you about the work you do and if it has increased since this law was passed.
Yes, of course. It has increased since the full-scale war on the 24th February, because queer people are very much involved in anti-war activities in Russia, and they didn't want to stay in the country. But now, so the more, we have a lot of requests to help with evacuation and migration.
It's a very important job you're doing, Svetlana Shaytanova. Thank you so much for coming in tonight.